Imagine facing death completely unprepared, not just physically, but spiritually. What if I told you that almost every human being on this planet is already failing the greatest test they will ever encounter? This is not just about dying. It's about what happens after. Death is the one truth no one escapes. Yet it is the one subject we refuse to face. From the ancient Tibetan Book of the Dead to mystical teachings across cultures, death is described not as an end, but as a transition, a threshold where the soul's true nature is revealed. But here's the chilling reality. Most of us enter this threshold blindfolded by fear, ignorance, and attachment. We live in illusion, distracted by trivial pursuits, unwilling to confront the very thing that gives life its deepest meaning. This video is not for those content to ignore death or see it as a mere biological event. It is for those brave few who dare to face the hidden mysteries beyond the veil, to awaken to a deeper truth about life, death, and what lies beyond. What if the real journey begins not after death, but now in this very moment? What if the way we live today determines the fate of our soul after death? Prepare yourself, because what you're about to discover could change everything you thought you knew about dying and living. If death is the ultimate test, then life is the training ground, the sacred preparation before the final exam. Yet, as we glance around the world, it becomes painfully clear. How many of us are truly ready for that moment when the veil lifts? How many have looked deeply into the nature of death, beyond fear and denial? The Tibetan Book of the Dead reveals a profound truth. The illusions we face after death are not foreign or distant. They are the very same illusions that cloud our minds here and now, in our everyday lives. Each day, without realizing it, we weave ourselves tighter into a web of attachments, fears, and desires. We pursue fleeting pleasures, money, status, fame, the applause of others, as if these could fill the hollow longing inside. We attach our sense of self to identities, roles, and beliefs, treating them like solid anchors amidst a world that never stops shifting. But these are not anchors. They are chains, invisible bonds that will pull us back into the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The Bardo, the mysterious in-between state described by the Tibetan masters, is far more than a place after death. It is a mirror reflecting the very consciousness we cultivate throughout our lives. The fears that make us run from painful truths in our waking hours will be the same shadows that chase us in the Bardo. The attachments we cling to here to possessions, relationships, ego become the chains that bind us there, dragging us unwillingly back into the wheel of samsara. In this way, the real test is not after death. It is happening now, in every breath we take, every moment we live. The question is simple yet profound. Are we awake, or are we asleep? Are we living consciously or drifting aimlessly in distraction and denial? Because if the mind is not trained to see beyond illusion in life, it will not suddenly awaken at the moment of death. The state of our consciousness as we breathe our last breath determines the entire journey that follows. This is why the majority of souls remain trapped, not because death is some cruel judge, but because they are unprepared. The terrifying visions, the overwhelming confusion, the powerful pull toward rebirth are all manifestations of a mind ruled by ignorance and fear. And here lies the cruelest irony. We craft this fate ourselves, moment by moment, thought by thought, desire by desire. But this is not a message of despair. On the contrary, it is a call to awaken, to understand that the cycle is not unbreakable, that the Tibetan masters did not leave these sacred teachings to condemn us, but to guide us toward freedom. Their wisdom is a lantern in the darkness, illuminating the path for those brave enough to walk it. The burning question remains: how do we break free from the illusions that bind us before death, not after? How do we train our consciousness to face the unknown with clarity, courage, and peace? The answer lies in transforming the way we live each day. Awareness, detachment, and acceptance are not just spiritual ideals, they are survival tools for the soul's greatest journey. Only when we start seeing through the illusions that entangle us in life can we hope to transcend the illusions of death. Because ultimately, the mind that dies is the same mind that lives untrained, unaware, or awakened. And it is this awakening, this conscious living, that holds the key to breaking free from the endless cycle and stepping into true liberation. Imagine the moment when everything fades: the world, the body, the familiar senses dissolving into nothingness. It is here, in this profound silence, that the Tibetan Book of the Dead reveals one of its most mysterious and powerful truths, the clear light. This radiant, luminous presence is said to be the true nature of mind, pure, boundless, and untouched by fear or illusion. Yet, in our ordinary lives, we rarely glimpse this light. We are blinded by distraction, buried beneath layers of thought, emotion, and attachment. The clear light is not some distant heavenly realm. It is the essential, original state of our consciousness. It is the light that shines behind the clouds of suffering and confusion. According to the teachings, the moment of death strips away the veils that obscure this radiant essence. The body ceases, but the clear light remains a dazzling, luminous field of pure awareness that is the very fabric of existence itself. Yet this light is paradoxical. It is both terrifying and glorious. For most, it appears like a blinding flash, overwhelming and unfamiliar. Without preparation, the mind recoils in fear, mistaking this luminous presence for a threatening force. This recoil often leads the soul away from liberation, dragging it back into the familiar cycle of rebirth, caught once again in the snare of illusion. But for those who have trained their consciousness through meditation, mindfulness, and deep spiritual practice, the clear light is not a source of fear. It is recognized as home, the ultimate reality beyond form, beyond duality. The moment of death becomes a gateway rather than an end, an opportunity for profound awakening and liberation. What does this mean for us in daily life? How can we, living amid the distractions and chaos of the world, prepare for this luminous moment? The answer lies in cultivating awareness and stillness within the turbulence of existence. Practices that calm the mind, that allow us to witness thoughts and emotions without attachment, begin to dissolve the veils that blind us. In essence, the clear light teaches us that death is not to be feared, but embraced as a return to our true nature. It challenges the deepest fears within us: fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, fear of non-existence. And it offers a profound invitation to live in such a way that when the final breath comes, we can meet the luminous mystery with open eyes and an open heart. This moment of meeting the clear light is the ultimate test of spiritual readiness. It is a test not of ritual or belief, but of lived experience, the embodiment of awakening in the midst of life's impermanence. The clear light shines not only at the edge of death, but as a flicker in every moment of genuine presence. It beckons us to live fully, awake and aware, so that the moment we cross the threshold, we do not stumble into fear and confusion, but step boldly into freedom. In this light, the journey of life and death is revealed as one continuous path, a sacred dance between form and emptiness, illusion and truth. The Tibetan Book of the Dead invites us to see beyond the veil and realize that the luminous core of our being has always been there, waiting for us to recognize it. As the Tibetan Book of the Dead unfolds its teachings, it leads us deeper into the mysterious Bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth. This realm is neither life nor death, but a liminal space, a threshold where the soul navigates shifting visions, illusions, and encounters that reflect the deepest layers of its own consciousness. The word Bardo itself means in between, a profound metaphysical pause where everything familiar slips away, and the soul is faced with the raw mirror of its own being. In this state, the soul encounters powerful experiences, dazzling lights, terrifying deities, and profound visions that are both awe-inspiring and disorienting. These manifestations are not external realities, but projections of the mind, reflections of one's own fears, attachments, and unresolved karma. Here lies the great challenge. The Bardo tests the soul's clarity and readiness. Those who recognize these visions as illusions, who maintain calm and equanimity, can navigate the Bardo safely, moving toward liberation. But those who succumb to fear, confusion, or desire risk being pulled back into samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and suffering. The Bardo, therefore, is a battlefield of the mind, where the illusions that have bound us in life arise with intensified force. It is a spiritual trial by fire, stripping away the false self to reveal the true essence beneath. The Tibetan masters who composed this text offer guidance instructions for the soul to recognize the nature of these visions, to confront the terrifying and beautiful with fearless awareness. But beyond death, the Bardo teaches us a timeless lesson for life itself. We too live in a constant state of in-between, between past and future, illusion and reality, attachment and freedom. Our waking hours are filled with moments where the mind projects fears and desires that obscure clarity. By learning to recognize these illusions now, by cultivating mindfulness and presence, we prepare ourselves not just for death, but for the very way we live. This state also reveals the profound interconnectedness of all things. The visions of deities and demons, light and darkness, joy and terror, they are not separate from us but expressions of the mind's dance with existence. The Bardo invites us to face our inner shadows, to transform fear into wisdom and attachment into compassion. Navigating the Bardo is not about denial or escape, but about profound acceptance of impermanence, of change, and of the ultimate mystery that lies beyond all concepts. It challenges us to let go of the ego's grip and to recognize that what we thought was I is but a transient wave on the vast ocean of consciousness. In this liminal space, time itself becomes fluid. Moments stretch and contract as the soul journeys through visions that feel eternal. The Tibetan Book of the Dead teaches that awareness, even in this disorienting realm, is the key to transcendence. The light that appeared in the moment of death, the clear light now weaves through the Bardo as a beacon, guiding the soul toward liberation. Understanding the Bardo invites us to see death not as an end but as a transformative passage, a sacred threshold where profound healing and awakening can occur. It calls us to live with greater presence, courage, and wisdom, so that when we cross this in-between realm, we are ready to embrace the unknown with clarity and peace. As the soul drifts further into the Bardo, it encounters a kaleidoscope of vivid visions, dazzling lights, radiant deities, and fearsome demons. These are not external beings, but projections of the mind itself, manifesting the soul's deepest attachments, fears, and unresolved emotions. The Tibetan Book of the Dead teaches us that these visions are illusions, reflections of the soul's own karma and mental habits. This stage in the Bardo is both mesmerizing and perilous. The soul may feel drawn toward the dazzling lights of blissful deities, mistaking them for ultimate reality, or it may be terrified by wrathful figures, overwhelmed by guilt or anger. Yet, both the radiant and the terrifying visions arise from the same source, the mind's habitual patterns. Here lies the spiritual test, the ability to recognize that these appearances, no matter how beautiful or horrifying, are empty of inherent existence. They are like reflections in a mirror, or waves on the ocean's surface, constantly shifting and insubstantial. The soul must hold firm awareness, seeing beyond the illusion to the luminous emptiness that underlies all form. If the soul grasps this truth, it can move beyond fear and attachment, transcending the Bardo's snares. This moment of clarity opens the door to liberation, a freedom from the cycle of rebirth and suffering. However, if the soul succumbs to illusion, it becomes entangled in desire or aversion, and the cycle continues. The Tibetan masters provide precise instructions for those journeying through this stage. They teach that by chanting sacred mantras, recalling spiritual teachings, or focusing on the clear light of awareness, the soul can remain centered and unshaken. This guidance is not just for the dead. It is a profound practice for the living, reminding us to cultivate mindfulness and insight amid life's shifting illusions. This stage also mirrors our waking experience. How often do we become ensnared by illusions in daily life, chasing fleeting pleasures, fearing imagined threats, or clinging to identities that dissolve over time? The Bardo reveals that life itself is a series of transient visions, and our suffering arises from mistaking these illusions for reality. By understanding the Bardo's lessons, we learn to live with greater wisdom and presence. We cultivate the ability to observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming overwhelmed, to see through the veils of illusion that cloud perception. This spiritual clarity prepares us for the ultimate transition at death and transforms the way we engage with the world. In essence, the Bardo is a profound metaphor for the human condition, a call to awaken from the dream of separation and illusion. It teaches that beneath the surface chaos of appearances lies a vast, luminous emptiness, the true nature of all existence. Recognizing this truth requires courage and practice, for it means facing not only the radiant but also the terrifying aspects of the self without flinching. It means embracing impermanence and uncertainty as the very fabric of life. In this luminous and shadowy realm, the soul is offered a final chance, a moment of profound awakening or continued bondage. The Tibetan Book of the Dead invites us to prepare for that moment now, in life, through spiritual discipline and heartfelt inquiry. As the journey through the Bardo unfolds, the soul arrives at a moment unlike any other, the life review. This is the ultimate confrontation with the mirror of karma, the unfiltered reflection of every thought, word, and deed that shaped one's existence. Here, illusions fall away, and the soul faces the undeniable truth of its own moral and spiritual account. The life review is neither a judgment by external gods nor a punishment imposed from outside. Rather, it is an intrinsic, inescapable reckoning born from the soul's own actions. Like shadows cast by a blazing light, the consequences of past choices materialize with stark clarity. Every kindness and cruelty, every selfless act and selfish desire is laid bare. This process is profoundly transformative, but also deeply challenging. For the soul, it is a moment of absolute honesty, a confrontation with the true nature of the self beyond masks and justifications. The Tibetan masters describe this experience as both terrifying and enlightening. The soul witnesses the ripple effects of its deeds, how they sowed harmony or discord in the cosmic web of existence. Yet, the life review is not merely a record of failures or guilt. It is an opportunity for radical awakening. By seeing clearly the seeds planted in past lives and this one, the soul gains insight into the patterns that bind it to suffering. This insight offers the chance to release attachments, dissolve regrets, and cultivate compassion, the transformative energies that can rewrite the soul's destiny. The Tibetan Book of the Dead emphasizes that the quality of this review depends on the soul's state of mind. If the soul clings to denial, anger, or despair, the review becomes a torment, reinforcing cycles of pain. But if the soul can embrace humility and acceptance, it opens a path toward healing and liberation. In this moment, spiritual teachings resonate with timeless urgency. Our actions ripple beyond ourselves, shaping not only our present life but the infinite tapestry of rebirths. The life review challenges us to live with integrity now, to plant seeds of love and wisdom in the fertile ground of the present moment. This cosmic mirror also reminds us that there is no external judge. The universe operates on a principle of cause and effect karma, which is impartial and exacting. The soul is both creator and experiencer of its fate, endlessly weaving the threads of past and future. For those walking the path of spiritual growth, the life review serves as a powerful motivator to confront shadows rather than avoid them. It calls us to heal old wounds, forgive ourselves and others, and awaken to the deeper truth of our interconnectedness. As we reflect on this, we realize that the Tibetan Book of the Dead is not only a guide for death but a manual for living. It reveals that the ultimate transformation begins with awareness and choice, here and now. By understanding the profound implications of the life review, we are invited to transcend fear of death and embrace it as the gateway to awakening, a transition where the soul can finally step into its full luminous nature. Having faced the profound revelations of the life review, the soul enters the final stages of the Bardo journey, a realm where ultimate liberation and transformation await. This is the moment when the soul can transcend the cycle of suffering and rebirth, stepping fully into its true, radiant nature. In Tibetan tradition, this stage is often called the clear light phase, an experience of pure, luminous awareness beyond all dualities of existence. It is the innermost essence of consciousness, the primordial state that is always present but often hidden beneath the illusions of ego and attachment. The Tibetan Book of the Dead teaches that if the soul recognizes this clear light, it can merge with it and achieve liberation known as nirvana or enlightenment. This is the ultimate freedom, the dissolution of all karmic bonds, and the end of the endless wheel of samsara. But the path to this liberation is subtle and elusive. Many souls, overwhelmed by fear, confusion, or clinging to earthly desires, fail to recognize the clear light. Instead, they are drawn back into attachment, leading to rebirth in a new body and the continuation of samsaric existence. This moment, therefore, is a supreme test of spiritual readiness. It calls for absolute surrender not to an external force, but to the true nature of one's own consciousness. It requires letting go of identity, ego, and all the stories that keep the soul trapped in illusion. The Tibetan masters emphasize that this surrender is not passive, but an active, courageous embracing of the unknown. It is a fearless leap into the void that reveals itself as infinite light and boundless love. This is the paradox of the spiritual path. Only by losing oneself can one truly be found. Practices such as meditation, mindfulness, and compassionate living prepare the soul for this moment. They cultivate the clarity and fearlessness needed to recognize the clear light when it appears. This is why Tibetan teachings stress the importance of spiritual practice throughout life, not as a distant preparation, but as a vital training for death and rebirth. Beyond the individual, the journey through Bardo also holds profound lessons for humanity. It reveals the interconnectedness of all beings, the subtle energies that link us beyond physical form, and the eternal dance of birth, death, and transformation. In this light, death is not an end, but a doorway, a sacred passage to greater awareness. The Tibetan Book of the Dead invites us to approach death not with dread, but with curiosity and reverence, as a final initiation into the mysteries of existence. As we contemplate these teachings, we are reminded that life itself is a bardo, a liminal space between what was and what will be. Every moment offers the chance to awaken, to choose liberation over attachment, and to step into the eternal dance of light and shadow. The journey through Bardo thus becomes a mirror reflecting the deeper journey within the quest for awakening that transcends death and leads to the radiant truth at the heart of all being. As the soul moves beyond the thresholds of the Bardo, it stands at the precipice of ultimate awakening, a sacred moment where the illusions of separation dissolve into the vast unity of all existence. The Tibetan Book of the Dead closes its profound teachings with a reminder. Death is but a passage, a transformation from one form of consciousness into another, an eternal dance of becoming. This dance is not merely a cycle of endings and beginnings. It is the ongoing flow of awareness that underlies everything, the silent pulse of the cosmos itself. To truly grasp this is to glimpse the secret heart of mysticism, where the finite and infinite entwine like lovers in an endless embrace. The lessons of Bardo implore us to live with intention, to cultivate clarity and compassion, and to prepare our souls for the moment when the veil between worlds thins. Every breath, every thought, every act becomes part of this sacred preparation, a weaving of light into the fabric of our being. In facing the mystery of death, we are invited to transcend fear and attachment. We learn that the self we cling to is but a fragile shadow on the cave wall of reality. Beyond this shadow lies the luminous essence, pure consciousness, radiant and free. The Tibetan masters teach that this essence is not something distant or unreachable. It is our true nature, hidden beneath layers of ego and illusion, waiting to be discovered through practice, insight, and surrender. When the soul embraces this truth, it does not vanish but shines with a brilliance that outlasts the body. This radiance touches all realms seen and unseen, and guides the soul toward liberation, toward the awakening that is both an ending and a beginning. For those who walk this path, the Tibetan Book of the Dead offers not only a map for the journey after death, but also a profound metaphor for life itself. Each moment is a crossing, each breath a chance to awaken from the dream of separation. In this way, the teachings transcend their cultural origins to become a universal call, to live fully awake, to embrace the mystery, and to dance boldly with the eternal. As we close this exploration, reflect on the journey you've undertaken through fear and illumination, through shadows and light. Know that the mysteries of death are also the mysteries of life, and that awakening is the ultimate secret whispered by the silence beyond words. In the end, to truly live is to prepare for death. To truly die is to awaken in light. And so, the eternal dance continues.